Hi, it's Wayne Marshall here, the organ of St Paul's Anglican Cathedral here in Valletta, Malta. I am here because I'm practicing the Prelude and Fugue in A minor, Johann Sebastian Bach BWV 543, and it's a piece which I've just really started to learn, and I've been playing it now, practicing it now for just over a week. And it is a tricky piece, and I think that, with all sort of new repertoire that you take, as I always say this to every organist, the most important aspect about the technique of playing the organ is to have a really good manual technique, and that really has to be done on the piano. No two ways about it. You have to learn the manual parts on the piano, as I did, and fingering is very, very important. Putting in fingering in the score, which of course is going to help you to always play the piece in the same way, and it's going to give you a kind of shape of how the piece goes in your mind. You've got to program the brain so that your fingers will do exactly what you want them to do, and it's a question of memorizing it as well. So it's all these things have got to be taken into consideration. Now, as I said, I've been practicing the manual parts on the piano, and so this is not the first time I bring it to the organ. But one little thing I always like to do, of course, is, because the manual parts have been practiced, it's very important that you want to be able to hear the pedal line. So what I'm practicing on is just a very basic 8/4 registration for the manual parts. But in the pedal part, I actually want to be able to hear it a bit louder. So I've added a 4-foot principal and the swell oboe so that the pedal line is a bit more prominent. So when you play everything together, the pedal part just stands out a little bit more prominently. So, for instance, just looking at, from the beginning, as I said, slow practice is very important, and in the prelude is a kind of like a fantasia, really, fantasia. Very, very sort of improvisatory, lots of that kind of writing. There's one little tricky passage here, which is over a suspended F sharp, and lots of little manual demi-semiquavers, 30-second notes. So the way it's written in the score, of course, it's all there, but you've got to sort out which hands are going to play what, and there's so many different ways of playing it. They're all grouped in groups of 8 30-second notes. So you can decide, but it's very important to know and to practice it slowly so you know exactly. I sort of split it between the hands. Some maybe 5 notes and then another 3, all these sort of things, but only that's something that only you can really decide, and practicing slowly, as I said, all these little passages where you have to shift and turn have to be practiced slowly. So you know exactly where you're going, so that and then practicing it separately with maybe left-handed pedals. So you know exactly every hand. And preparing in advance, always thinking ahead. So that everything is all very precise. So when you play it, the pedal part is very, very important, and it's very important to be able to hear it. So practicing it like this, where you can actually hear the pedal line a little bit louder than the manual parts, is good, because you start to listen to the pedal, you start to phrase it, you start to you know, to enjoy the line and to work out exactly how it all feels together when you put it all together. You know, it's just been manual work so far, but now the pedals comes in, totally different thing altogether. But it's very important also to rehearse the pedal part. There's a pedal cadenza here in this piece, of course. So, you know, I mean, I deliberately threw some mistakes in there, but it's very important to sort of practice all these, the top line. So you articulate. And where possible, use as many toes as possible, not really sort of, you know, using the heel. Again, it depends on you and the technique, but, you know, toes are much more precise and a little bit more sort of, you know, secure. So again, here we've got a passage where we've got all these jumps. So it's very important to practice them all slowly. So all these other passages just have to be practiced. Here's another, and so on, yeah, that goes on there. Then it ends, and then at the end there's a sort of bit of awkward moment here. So it's very important not to be caught out there, and to practice it slowly. Where the feet going to go. So you're not dangling and deciding, oh, where the hell have we got to go now? But always preparing in advance. That's the most important thing. Now, the most important thing is here in the fugue is that when you come to play it at the organ for the first time, it's very important to practice those bits which need to be coordinated with the pedals. So practicing hands separately, for instance, left-handed pedals is very good because, you know, being right-handed, the left hand is always the weakest. So it's very good to practice. So the first pedal entry comes here. Preparing. The shifting. So there's a lot of shifting around here and very sort of awkward when you go to. So you've got to practice at all sorts of different tempi. It's quite similar to the big pedal solo in the Toccata in F, isn't it? So a Bach, you know. So practicing hands separately, left hand and pedals. There's a different registration there. And here is a walkwards, shifting. Slow practice is essentially fast practice, but slowly. So all the phrasing has got to be practiced and rehearsed as well. So it all becomes naturally. When you play it up to speed, then it all just sounds naturally. Oops. Now there's a move there. So the pedal line, we've got G sharp and then G natural. So all that's going to be practiced. Yep. And then this little passage here. You know, all these little tricky bits. We just all have to be practiced and so on. Then you get this little sequence where it's all the manuals part. Maybe some reorganization exactly of which part's going to play, you know, which hand's going to play which part. So there's a bar here where the so you've got to reorganize and things like that. This passage where, you know. And then when the pedal part comes in again later on, so there's a bit there where the 16ths in the right hand, you could be played by one hand, but then you've got to make a jump. You know, you either decide and be ready for the fugal subject there. So I actually separate hands there. Ready for the pedals there, and here. The orca bit there. The one good thing about this is that, you know, it makes everything very clear. So you know exactly all the sort of difficult moves you have to make have to be made here, and you just have to rehearse it and really practice it. And the good thing about practicing on this kind of registration is it actually makes you listen, and it makes you just concentrate and focus. I mean, when it's all on the right registration, it's a sort of like a nice present later on when you practiced it and so on. So, you know, we are then, what I'm doing now is, of course, I'm trying to work the tempo in, and I mean, it's all very new, but it's, you know, you have to practice all these things slowly, and then eventually it should come, you know, but lots of practice. Ooh, that's a very dangerous bit there. This dangerous bit here. So, nice note. Yes. Repeating. So, you know, it's just really just practicing and getting everything right and just being very precise as much as possible, working the tempo, starting very slowly, working the tempo up, practicing left-handed pedals, soft registrations, make sure the pedal line is a bit louder. Then eventually when you play it on the full tutti or whatever you're going to play it on, then it just feels better. But it's, the whole point of slow practice is slow practice, working it into the system. And that's very, very important. All right, bye.